Welcome everybody. First things first, as always, if I could get a quick audio visual check, please let me know if you can see my charts clearly and you can hear my voice all right by letting me know how your day is going. I assume you're all doing fantastic today with this nice, refreshing price action going on here today. So yeah, I'll just wait for confirmation that I'm not just talking to myself here, and then we will get started, you guys. Good to see that we already have a few people here watching. 37 watching. Right on, guys. If you do appreciate my view on the market, just keeping a level-headed thoughts through all of this shenanigans happening in the markets, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. Make sure you get in on these live streams with us. All good, right on. Thank you, other stew. Us stews need to stick together. I know we've been through this before, but all right, guys. Well, let's dive right into it here. I mean, I am actually, sorry, one sec. I got a dog here in the house for a sec here, so sorry if we got some barking in the background. But I see that Hurley had already mentioned in the chat there that we are technically at a 4-hour Stuber fib setup, and I do want to talk about that because you guys, I have been mentioning these price levels for a little while, that if we ended up breaking through this lower high resistance at around 87k, that I thought it was very likely we shoot right up to this purple box here on my 4-hour chart, and that's exactly where we've wicked perfectly to right now. I am not saying that this rally has to be over at this point. The bulls do look strong, and you guys know more than anybody, you guys who have been in my streams, who have been in my Telegram channel, all that sort of stuff, you guys know I have been very bearish, basically all of 2025 so far. Today is the first time that feeling has been lifted at all for me. But I still do want to be cautious of certain levels moving forward, because at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, this weekly candle, that is a beautiful bought back up wick. But there was some very significant structure broken. So I do want to go over a few things with that. But guys, just full disclosure here, like I said, I did just open a bit of a head short. I am in a long, so I took this long late. These are just scalps, right? This is on a 1-minute time frame. I've already closed half of my long position from down at around 93k. And basically I was just kind of playing that. Yes, after I woke up, I missed a large part of the move. I'm a scalper. I'm not that afraid to play shorter time frame structure like this. So we just kept staircasing higher. This whole move, you guys, we had not broken a single higher low on the 1-minute chart. All right. We starting from right down here, we never once broke a 1-minute higher low on this whole trend. And that's just to show how powerful that microstructure that I teach in my Telegram and on these streams is. And guys, the reason why I ended up taking a little bit of a hedge short recently, even though the bulls look so strong, is because this is the first time right here. I'm going to remove this fib right now. This red line here, this is the first sign of weakness that I've seen today. This is the first time that we actually had on the way up. We did set this high, and we did end up pushing a little bit higher. So on the very analyzing micro trend here, this was the higher low that I was looking at. And we eventually ended up dropping that level. So I did take a little bit of a head short. I was hoping for higher entries. I did at that point. I did the classic, what I always do after a structure break, and pulled my fibs. And I had more orders set at my 786, 886, 1, and basically up towards my invalidation. But we ended up just continuing to the downside. So that's why often when we get our first sign of weakness like that, that's where I will like to start a bit of a small hedge position. And we'll just see what happens from here. If it gets stopped out, we moon to the upside. Fantastic, whatever. At this point, the fibs have changed, so I've removed my orders for now. I'll actually go into that in a little bit here as well. But guys, this is the same structure that led me to take a short at $101,626, which, by the way, a quarter of that position is still open. Yes, I've been paying myself on the way. But I had mentioned that structure in the Telegram and on a stream several weeks ago. And basically, it was just as soon as we actually lost a higher low on the trend, I just wanted to hedge myself just in case that's a warning that the trend is shifting. So at this point, I don't know, right? We could just blast right through here. I still have part of this long position with the break even stop on the rest of my position here. Hasn't been hit yet. So if we end up stopping out my hedge, then great. Then my long will just continue on from here. That's totally fine. But yeah, right now, like I mentioned, on the 4 hour, we are getting up towards these levels that I was warning about. And basically my reasoning for that is exactly how I have this fib pulled. I thought that it made a lot of sense. Here on the 4 hour, we had our low, we had a lower low. That was confirming this as our lower high on the trend. And when we got that 4 hour candle above, closing above that level, you can see that's where we took off. Now, I understand that there's some fundamental stuff going on with the strategic reserve on several different coins, stuff like that. You guys know I'm not a fundamental guy. So if that's the sort of stuff that you're into, someone else will be better informed on that than I will. I just like looking at the structure of the charts and going from there. So I don't like trading fundamentals personally. I would rather trade the charts every single time. So whatever the reasoning is, we ended up breaking my invalidation to the bearish trend. Then I'm looking at the bigger trend Fibonacci pull here, basically. And another reason why I was watching this level, you guys, and some of you will remember this from my last couple of streams, is when I brought up my liquidations indicator. Guys, there is a lot of liquidity up at these levels. And honestly, that's why I wouldn't be too surprised to see us push up a little bit higher, even towards like 99, even 100K. There's a lot of these 50 and 100x leverage liquidation levels in this level or in this zone here. So I think it makes a lot of sense that, since we broke that lower high trajectory, it makes sense that as a market maker, I would want to grab a bunch of that liquidity. So I think it is possible that we go up a little bit higher. But again, just understand that we are starting to get into resistance again. So I'm not saying that this party has to be over. We could absolutely go parabolic from here. I don't know. We're just going to have to see what happens. With this weekly chart, again, guys, I love the fact that how much that we've rebought this candle back up. But I do still want to see my RSI divergence line broken. Yes, I'll give credit where credit is due. This is looking significantly less bearish than it was the last couple of weeks to me. And the fact that, we're going to be closing this weekly candle in about 5.5 hours here. Honestly, if we close at this level right here, I don't know how I feel about it. I love that it reclaimed this structure and that we'd be back above it. But, the fact that we still have this RSI divergence here, we'd still have, yes, it would be a red candle, even if it was, I guess, signifying that we have found a bottom here. It would still make sense to do just a retest of those bottoms and then go up. Does it have to happen? Absolutely not, right? The market does not give a shit what I think or about my opinion. It's going to do what it's going to do. All we can do is kind of plan ahead and basically prepare ourselves, right? Because I know a lot of people will often say when I mention, here's a possible upside scenario, here's a possible downside scenario, and people love to say, oh, so it can go up or down. Yeah, of course it can. Yeah, and honestly, if anyone is not suggesting that on their streams or on their YouTube channels or on Twitter or anything, that's something to consider, is that most traders out there, most successful traders will have plans in place that, hey, if the chart does this, I'm going to execute this. And if the chart does that, then I'm going to execute that setup. None of us know for sure where the price is going to go. We can just take our best educated guess and play our probabilities. And that's where it's important to do some back testing, have a back tested strategy and that sort of stuff before you're putting any money behind any sort of actual trade setup, right? But as it goes right now, yes, bulls are looking strong, but they always look strongest as we're trading right into resistance, right? So just understand that. And guys, also, if you are trading this market right now, understand that on the shorter time frames, even if you're trying to scalp right now, it is way more volatile than it looks. The chart patterns that are playing out are significantly larger than you would expect them to be. And just understand that with leverage, you might have to tone down the leverage a little bit or that sort of thing, or you might accidentally liquidate yourself, right? Because these swings are much bigger than they look. Even from where we've topped out here to where we bottomed just recently, that's almost a 2% move. So with high leverage, that can be quite a big move, right? So just a few things to be cautious of there, guys. XRP, I also took a bit of a short recently. Just another classic Stuber fib setup. exactly what I kind of teach in the Telegram channel and that sort of thing. But basically, guys, same thing that I'm looking at on Bitcoin, right? We had on this very micro structure, we had this high, we push higher. So we got our higher high, we had our higher low, we broke that structure. We ended up pulling back to the 786, 886 fib pocket. We hit my first two targets. And from here, my stop loss can be break even. I have nothing to worry about on this short position. I've paid myself a little bit. And now we see what happens. Again, it's not so much that I'm bearish on XRP specifically. It's just that there was this setup here, and it's a typical strategy that I love trading all the time. And the structure worked out. We had the fib pullback and everything. So it ended up working. From here, whatever happens with that position happens. Cardano and Solana, I have not taken any more positions on those. I'm just in my couple of Bitcoin positions and that XRP one. But Solana, I have not touched this chart in probably a week or two. I don't know, whenever I mentioned it on stream here last time. I was watching this purple box. Obviously, we ended up dropping that support, flipping it into possible resistance right now, right? Like I did not map this out just before the stream or anything. I honestly haven't looked at this chart for a while now. Just something worth considering there that, hey, once again, we are coming back into resistance territory, right? So yes, it was a beautiful, refreshing bounce. Just don't get too caught up in the FOMO of just longing with excessive leverage right into resistance kind of a thing, right? Shockingly, the shorts or the long short ratio is lower than I would have thought. So there is a lot of people still trying to short this. I mean, I think a couple days ago, this was sitting at something like 74, 75% retail long. And that was just a beautiful signal that there was more fuel to the downside kind of a thing. But yeah, right now it's dropped off a lot. So there seems to be a lot less FOMO with this pump. That's interesting. So maybe people have kind of given up on this market, right? So in that case, yeah, like I said, maybe we end up getting a bounce from here. I still think, like I said, there is liquidity up a little bit higher. So I'm totally open to the idea of pushing higher yet. Honestly, guys, even if we end up breaking through this Stuber fib pocket, I mean, the thing is, since we lost that 89K support, I mean, I was quite vocal about that for a while. That was the macro support that I really wanted to hold. I love that we have got back into this range. That's great that we got rid of this support resist flip going on here. But just understand that Bitcoin does still have a lot of resistance up ahead. I don't know if we're going to just go absolutely parabolic from here. Honestly, I'm happy with either way. And as traders, that's kind of the way to position yourself, right? Like I am not afraid to trade the downside, but this price action by no means has frightened me. I by no means have panic sold all of my crypto or anything like that. My spot bags, they're loving the fact that we finally got a much wanted bounce. That's totally it's great to see. If we end up breaking all-time highs and going absolutely parabolic, I will be a moon boy just like everybody else. I will be very excited as well. But I need to pay attention to this structure here because as it stands, we broke very serious structure on this plunge to the downside. And you guys know the whole idea, the whole foundation behind my Stuber fibs is that you look for those structure breaks and then the retrace. And I know a lot of people start getting FOMO the opposite direction when those retraces happen, but that's the whole theory behind that trade setup. So understand that getting some sort of a reaction bounce after breaking structure would be totally normal. And even if we ended up going all the way up towards 106K, I think that there's some very strong resistance up around that level. So be cautious if that ends up happening. The weekly chart, you guys, the first thing that I think I will see that will make me go a full moon boy would be, and I've been talking about this for my last few streams, would be if this RSI divergence breaks. It's a very specific double top bearish RSI divergence setup that I look for. That's all time frames because you guys, whether it's the weekly chart, the 4-hour chart, the 5-minute, the 1-minute, I treat market structure the same. Yes, people have a hard time letting the longer time frames play out. But the structure generally works the same. And this is a very specific setup that I like to short. And you know what? Even if we bounce from here, that was a great, you know what? The market on the downside there was so much fun. There was a lot of beautiful shorts in there. Those of you in the Telegram channel know all about it. But yeah, I think if we end up breaking this RSI downtrend line here, I will have a significantly different feeling on the market. And just to kind of show you what I mean is we've seen the same thing happen before, right? We had this 8-month sideways, slightly down trading range where we pulled back 30% here. This was the exact same thing, right? We just had that bearish divergence from overextended conditions. And then eventually when we end up breaking that, that's when we get the green light, basically, that, hey, RSI downtrend has been broken. That's an early warning sign that there's more strength in the market again. And then we continued to the upside. And if we get that again here, I really think that's what we're going to see. As it stands right now, still slightly getting rejected. Now, I will say a few hours ago, this was down significantly further. So it has obviously recovered a lot with the price going to the upside, but we haven't actually broken out of this yet. So curious to see how this weekly candle closes in about 5.5 hours. And very curious to see the reaction on the next candle open later this evening. And even when the US markets open tomorrow morning, especially, I'm very intrigued to see what ends up happening there. Just zoom into some shorter time frames again. So that short is still playing out okay. XRP short still playing out okay. Excuse me. Yeah, guys, I want to catch up on the chat a little bit here. Let me know, how are you all feeling on the market? Are you thinking straight to, new all-time highs from here? Do you think we're going to see a big pullback? Because honestly, guys, something else that I would love to see, just before I sound too bearish on the trend or anything like that, understand that since we broke this lower high on the 4-hour that I was talking about, something that I was really hoping to see, and we still may see it. We also may not, because again, the market doesn't care what I think, and I don't always get the setup that I want. But since we have that structure break, I would love to see a bullish super fib. And so we could be bullish even if we end up dropping all the way back down towards 81 or even 80K. That would still be a bullish retest, in my opinion, as long as we kind of hold these lows here. The fact that we broke that lower high, I think Bitcoin's actually in a fairly good position for the midterm. But again, just understand that we're starting to get towards resistance. So a pullback would be totally normal eventually. Yeah, just going to catch up on the chat a little bit. Again, guys, if you appreciate my level-headed approach on looking at the markets and all that sort of thing, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Good to see some familiar faces in here, you guys. Muted? Hopefully you don't mean you're muting me. And if you are, well, it's been fun. All right. Lack of strength from Litecoin is slightly concerning because it has been leading the markets. Yeah, I'll check out Litecoin in a little bit here. Bullish for this year. What happens next with this? No idea. Yeah, and that's what we're going to have to see. Honestly, I have my concerns about the state of this market. Like I said, that weekly signal, it's a very serious one. I take that very serious. Even on the 1-minute chart, I take that pattern very seriously. So to see it on the weekly, that's why I've been so bearish basically since Christmas. We were actually down here, and I said that the RSI had dropped. Looked like we were going to get that bearish divergence with a double top. That's exactly what happened. And now we have to see what happens. Like, really, I wouldn't be too surprised. Like I said, we broke some very serious structure. It would be very natural to end up testing this super fib pocket and then coming back down. Even if it was going to remain bullish, we could still come back down and test down like I was talking about earlier. But I'm not trading the weekly chart specifically anyways. I just really like to keep my eyes on it to kind of get an overall feel for the market, right? I just don't want to be blindsided. Like, this downside price action did not blindside me at all. If anything, the upside this morning did a little bit more so. But again, as soon as we broke that lower high resistance there, then I was open to the idea of further upside. I had ended up shorting last night around this area here. I'll actually bring up a screenshot here in the Telegram channel here, you guys. I had just mentioned that on the 5-minute chart, we were looking at a classic Stuber fib setup, and I was looking at 4-hour resistance basically from there up towards 87.1K. Finally, overnight, we did hit the first take profit, the 0.5 fib, never quite hit my 214 fib. And then we ended up blasting to the upside. Rest got stopped out. That's fine. Whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, just classic setups. Guys, none of this price action really came as a surprise. I mean, we were ready for that downside move for quite a while there. So if that is something that interests you, you guys, you can scan my QR code here to gain free access to my Telegram channel, just kind of where, like I said, I just kind of keep up to date with my thoughts on the markets, some of my trade setup theories and ideas, updating as my positions go. This was right before the Bybit hack that happened there. Totally ready for the downside move, even without that. Also, guys, there is a few days left. Our partners with BloFin are currently giving my followers 10% cash back on deposit if you sign up using my link, which also gives you that access to my Telegram channel and all that sort of stuff. So just a little extra bonus there as well. And guys, I know so many people have asked me, so due to popular demand, I did share a couple of educational pieces on my Stuber fib strategy. This one here, this first one, you can find it pinned to my Twitter account, StuTube Trading, all one word, and also in the Financial Summit YouTube channel. That is made public for you guys there. But also those of you who sign up to my free Telegram channel, there is this additional video here, which goes a little more in depth into the foundation of the Stuber fibs, the structure, and how I kind of recognize the new ranges to be pulling my fibs from when looking to be trading this market. So if that's something that interests you, do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code or follow the steps in the description down below to get involved with that. But yeah, guys, well, see, we're still dumping to the downside here. The rest of my long was stopped at break even. So whatever I took profits on the first half, that is gone. And that's why I took my hedge, right? It's a very stress-free position to be in. That's exactly why I love hedging positions. And it's exactly why I never got blindsided by this bullish FOMO, was just that, hey, you know what? This was our first little bit of weakness. We finally broke some structure there. Just to make sure, I am going to take some profits off this as well. Just give me 1 second here. I'm going to close a quarter of that position. Actually, I'm only going to close 20% of that position for now. And my stop loss is going to be at break even. Let me just update this real quick. Okay, so there again, right? I just, as always, guys, and those of you in my Telegram channel, you know that I always mention this, that I'm always very quick to basically close a quarter to half of my position and then update my stop losses quickly, because I am more of a scalper. I am trading a 1-minute chart here, so understand that I should be looking to take profits quickly. I personally think that's what most people struggle with scalping shorter time frames, is so many people look for entries on a 1 minute and they're expecting the chart to play out like a 4-hour or even a 1 hour. The way I kind of look at it, just as a general rule of thumb, is if I enter a position, if it's been, more than 10 candles, depending what time frame I'm trading, right? But 10 candles have gone by, then there's a good chance that I should be starting to downsize my risk, taking profits, updating my stop loss, all that sort of thing. And that's just kind of a good general rule of thumb. Not that it's in concrete for me or anything like that. It's not that I live and breathe by that rule, but it is just something for me to remember what time frame I'm trading. If I'm trading a 1-minute time frame, yeah, within 10 minutes, I might want to be considering to do updates or something like that. With a 1-hour chart, yeah, halfway through the day, I might want to consider making some changes and that sort of stuff. So just kind of a general rule of thumb to try and help me remember what I'm trading, basically, and why I'm willing to downsize my positions quickly. So I did notice, like, for example, in the chats there, Hurley, you had mentioned that we were at the 4-hour fib. I assume that's the exact same one that I pulled from here, basically. The fact that we tested that, and then on the 1 minute we start finding that weakness, right? That's basically my confirmation that, hey, yeah, I think this resistance may actually hold in that case, because we're starting to see the lower time frame agree with the longer time frame. So that's kind of why I took that hedge short there. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. What if the weekly closes green? I'm going to say that that is a huge amount of strength. I still want to see what that RSI looks like. I truly believe if this candle closes green, that we would probably also close with the RSI higher than this trend line. And yes, I think that would be a very strong sign that the bulls are, well, they're definitely around, if nothing else. Obviously, we could go back down and retest any part of that wick on the way down, whatever would be totally normal. But yes, I would say if this candle closes green, the RSI closes above my divergence trend line, yeah, I would be more bullish than you guys have seen me since Christmas. That's for sure. For the first part of this year, I have been very bearish, and this is the most bullish that I've been so far. Basically, the fact that I even took a little bit of a scalp long earlier. But yeah, I'll give credit where credit is due. The bulls have been very strong today. There's no other way to say it. That being said, the bulls always look strongest at resistance, just like the bears always look strongest at support. And that's where a lot of people panic, right? So just something to consider there. Perma Bear Host got wrecked. Perma Bear Host had some 600% profits on the downside. The Perma Bear Host is fine. But thanks for your concern. New to the Telegram group, but pretty new to trading and want to learn under Stu's supervision. You're in the right place, right? If you want to learn more about chart structure and stuff. And that's the thing, guys. The comment I just made there about hosts getting wrecked there. Understand that that's why invalidations are in place, right? I wasn't shorting down here. I was shorting, like, guys, I'm still short from 101K. Okay. I still have a short from right up here when we had the same type of setup that I just took now. The host is not shorting down into a breakout. He's waiting for resistance levels to short, because then there's shorter invalidations, right? So even that short that I took down here, I ended up closing over a quarter of it before it got stopped out. That one I did take a little bit of a loss. That's totally fine. That's a part of trading. There has been some beautiful shorts to the downside, basically since this swing fail I warned about. I was very vocal about this, that we had a lower high here, and if we got a swing fail, I'd be shorting the shit out of it, and that's exactly what I did. So I'm not too surprised to see this bounce. That's exactly why I had this purple box here, why I was talking about those liquidation levels. There's also, we're currently struggling with this liquidations band. We're trading right at it right now. So Bitcoin isn't in the clear. But again, guys, I trade the 1 minute and the 5 minute. So, I mean, whatever it is, it is. Right now, even on the micro time frame, we did just end up setting a new slightly lower low. You could also consider this a swing fail. So we may swing back to the top of the range. But the top of the range of this very small swing fail, you have to understand, is very close by, right? So as long as we stay below this lower high on the trend, then I'm going to be favoring the downside. If we end up closing a candle above this red line, because just since it is the micro analyzing the 1 minute, I want to protect myself and want to pay myself on this position. If we get a 1 minute candle closing above this line here, I will be closing 30% more off of this short position. And then I'll just leave the second half run from there. Because then, as you say, if I'm going to get wrecked because we go to the upside, I'll just break even on the second half, and I took profits on the first half. So I really don't care if that happens. Actually, you know what? In fact, just because I am going to get sidetracked here, I am going to set a trigger order on that other 30% of the stop loss. So basically just up here around 133, I'll call it. I'm going to set a trigger order to take partial profits if we end up starting to reverse, just showing any weakness in my play. Basically, if we start to show that, hey, the bulls may be back because we break a lower high on the micro trend, I just want to downsize my risk and pay myself. That's all. 93133. And now I have nothing to, and yeah, so now I have nothing to worry about. Worst case scenario on this position, I can take a little bit more profits and then get stopped out on the rest. Totally fine if that happens. XRP looks like we're trying to do that sort of a thing right now. I am just going to extend this a little bit because the range has changed. Struggling with that lower high resistance a little bit on XRP, but I'm going to do the same thing. Basically, if we get above this level here, I'm going to lock in some more profits on that as well. Because that's the thing, guys. This is something that I want to make very clear, and I try to make clear in every one of my videos, is that, and I say it all the time, the market does not care about my opinions, my feelings, anything like that. And quite honestly, even how we analyze this, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you're trading, your analysis doesn't actually matter all that much. What matters is that you have an execution strategy in place. That's why, you know, I could be wrong on this, right? This XRP position could go against me and it just ends up mooning, and I still get paid on the way down before that happens. Just like this Bitcoin position, right? If we end up mooning from here, I can still make money on that position. As a trader and a weatherman, those are your two best chances at being able to be wrong on your thoughts, and you can still make money while you do it. So just understand there's a huge difference between executing trades and predicting what's going to happen. You know, I know some people who are great analysts who have no idea how to trade. And just like some of the best traders that I know in the space, and some traders that I know personally who are much better traders than myself even, they will fully admit they have no idea where the price is going. But if the price does this, this is what they're going to do. So that's a very important lesson in the game of trading, in my opinion. CME gap at 84 must be filled. It does not. I agree with you that it could be filled. Gaps don't need to fill. I know that's a common misunderstanding, I guess, is that a lot of people think the CME gaps have to fill. And to be quite honest, most of them do. Most CME gaps fill. There is, if you want to say that the 84K one has to fill, I think there's another one around 74K or so. I can't remember exactly where, but it's somewhere in there. So there is a couple. And in fact, I think there's still one down around 9K from last market cycle bottom, because a lot of people were saying we did not bottom yet, because there was still a CME gap that was like, it was something like $25 or $50 away, and people weren't willing to accept it. And then we ended up getting a full bull market. So just understand those gaps do typically fill. I will say that, but just sometimes they don't, right? Thanks to our president. For the pump or for the dumping before? Still 1 hour left on this 4-hour candle. We might close it red still. Let's just check that. I mean, to be fair, you're not wrong. That would be wild. Oh boy, would that be wild. Not expecting it, but you are correct. There is some time left, just like that weekly chart, right? Mystical, all you know is you're going to listen to me because I'm always right. Well, I don't think that's not necessarily true. I'm not always right. And again, understand again what I went over before. The execution side of things is far more important than the actual prediction side of things, right? So understand, I'll be wrong too. You're not buying anything. Like honestly, I as full on bear mode as I've been recently, I have to give credit where credit's due. The bulls they've been stronger today than I have seen in 2025 so far. Yeah, that run up was fire. Now we wait. Yeah, I mean, we just see what happens, right? That's why I'm just a fan of positioning myself either direction. If I see any sort of weakness like this, this is one of those times I'm glad I took that hedge, right? Yeah, it was just a very micro structure break on the 1 minute, but so far that has relieved a lot of stress from me. I'm not panicking to find a new position at this point because I have that one running at least. Is the Telegram group really free if you need to deposit $300? Yes, because it is your own $300 to trade with. So it is still your money. That is not a payment to me at all. That is like basically I put in a lot of time, a lot more time than you see with the posts that are going in that group. I put a lot of time and effort into making those posts and stuff, but I would rather have our partners at BloFin give me a little bit of pay rather than take pay from you guys, basically. So it's a way that it's a win-win for everybody. And the more I see people trading, the more active that I can be in there, the more things I'm going to be posting and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so far, still just seeing a little bit of weakness here. We did get above that lower high. I'll give it that. We got above, but it was very short-lived. Do we end up getting a mini Stuber fib bounce here? I'm not willing to play it, but it's a possibility. That's just such a messy one. It's so close that I'm not confident in that bullish break. But if we are going to continue to the upside, I would expect it to happen very soon here. I'm not sure what shitcoin scams like Cardano and XRP. That's fair. Yeah, see, classic bounce off the 786. So here's, guys, I know I talk about this in my streams sometimes, and those of you I've had, conversations with in the past and stuff, is that once you start to see these fib setups, you start to see them everywhere. So even though, yes, even something like this, it was very small, but notice you get that structure break, and then all of a sudden the 786, 886 does get that reaction. So yeah, if you're going to pull a very small range like that, understand that your first targets, I mean, your entries, you're looking at something like so, getting stopped out below the 115 somewhere. So you're trying to get your average entry somewhere in here if you're getting all your orders. But notice that we got that bounce off the 786. We have already hit the first target. The second target would be right here. So as far as the scalping side of things, that yes, they can happen very quickly, especially when you're pulling a real tiny range like that, right? So whatever size range you're looking at, obviously your take profits are going to change. The bigger the range, the bigger your profits, also the bigger your invalidations, so therefore your losses and that sort of thing, right? Even something like this, like I said, it's a lot more volatile than it looks right now. So that's almost 0.5% to the 214 or yeah, the 214 fib up there. But yeah, you have to understand, right, that there's always smaller ranges inside bigger ranges that are inside bigger ranges, and so on. So that's where having Fibonacci pulls and something like that sort of a trading strategy, then at least it's structured, right? So you have your entries there. You also have your take profits there. If you decide to take the entry, but you ignore the profits and then get mad that, hey, this trade setup never worked, even though the targets got hit, that's kind of user error at that point, right? So if you're trying to really microanalyze, like what I love to do all the time, and you're pulling these very small fibs, then yes, your targets are going to be very nearby. But that being said, your invalidation and your stop loss are also going to be very close as well. Very tight losses in that case, right? But I would say, makes more sense to look for a bigger fib pull, something like this, for example. Yeah. As the producer mentioned there, Donald Trump doesn't think it's a shitcoin, and it does influence the Bitcoin price. Even when you are a maxi, you have to admit that we trade to gain more Bitcoin. Nothing wrong with that. Exactly. That's an excellent point. Because honestly, the point of since I'm not a fundamental guy, here's something I actually want to make this point right now, you guys. Since I am not a fundamental guy, I do not trade fundamentals. I do not trade the news. I do not trade speeches. I don't trade any of that. I look at market structure, and I do not care what asset I'm looking at that structure on. That's my deal as a trader, is that I don't care what the asset is doing. I don't care which direction it's going, and I don't care what it is. As long as there's volatility, there is trading volume, there is good liquidity there. I'm willing to trade it. And I don't care if it's XRP, if it's Bitcoin, if it's Trump coin, if it's some other random shit coin I've never heard of. As long as that criteria is met, I have no problem trading it. So this channel here, my streams, I don't care if you guys have altcoin requests. You want me to look at whatever altcoin, just let me know in the comments what time frame you're looking at, most importantly, and what the ticker is, and I can check them out, because I really don't care what the asset is, really, as long as it's volatile. And like I said, there's actually some liquidity there and trading volume, because the one thing I'm not interested in trading is things that have, especially with leverage, is things that have very low trading volume, because that's how you get extreme cases of slippage. And I have had that in the past. I know I've told this story to a lot of you who are here with me right now, but I've had that happen before, where I was trading an altcoin. I can't even remember what it was. It was on a different exchange, and I had my stop loss set in a 20% profit, and that position got liquidated. Okay. So it never got stopped out at a 20% profit. It never even got stopped at break even. It got liquidated. That's a big reason why I only use isolated leverage. I have never used cross leverage, because it scares me. I like to know worst case scenario, even if there's crazy slippage. I understand a stop loss is not worst case scenario. That's another point I want to make right now. It can get worse than a stop loss because of slippage. But with isolated margin, at least I know worst case scenario. However much margin I put on that position, that's the absolute most I can lose. And yeah, that situation that happened a year and a half ago, whatever, it wasn't even a big position. Like, I really didn't care all that much, but it was annoying, and it scared some sense into me that I only wanted to trade coins that actually have proper volume and stuff like that. You can generally tell from looking at the charts if they're just gapping all over the place, and they just generally don't look that natural if there's really low trading volume. How do I see the CME gap affecting Bitcoin? I already went over that. Hopefully you caught that. How accurate was the Trendmaster tops and bottoms on this pump? I can take a look at the Trendmaster. The Trendmaster on the 4 hour would not have caught this. It definitely caught the short. So like I said, we had the lower sell signal, and then we ended up finding that's basically, it's not so much that it was a sell signal, but it was a lower sell signal, and that's where we ended up finding resistance perfectly. So it nailed that on the 4 hour. I could check on the shorter time frames. We do have a sell signal here on the Trendmaster. Understand that this is one of those times where it is a higher sell signal, so take it for what it is. I generally like to use those signals to help point which way the trend is continuing to move, basically. So yes, I'm already bearish for well, not even bearish, just protecting myself from up here for a different reason, but it is nice to see that as well. And basically that gives me that confirmation that I think it's a good idea if we pump much higher. What did I say? 133 was my partial stop loss. So yeah, basically if we invalidate this, then that's just another reason why I'm totally okay with locking in some more profits if we bounce above that. Let's see where it would have ended up catching this. I mean, a beautiful buy signal down here. Again, it was a lower buy signal, so I don't know how much credit I would have given it. But yeah, same with here. When we got that lower sell signal, notice even that, as far as a scalp, that was a beautiful signal with the lower sell signal, right? We still got a nice move to the downside there. So yeah, it did call a buy signal down here. I personally wouldn't have taken that all too serious, like I said, until we started breaking above these sell signals and making it very obvious the lower sell signals were not going to continue the trend. That's kind of how I like looking at this indicator. And at that point, we ended up breaking the lower high on the 4 hour, and then we just held this buy trend from there. So that's another thing to consider for you guys is any indicators I use. Like me personally, I am always market structure first, and I look at indicators second for a second opinion, basically, but always market structure first for me. And I know a lot of people like to use indicators to try and force as many trades as possible, or just trying to force entries. Honestly, a big thing for me with using indicators is trying to see if they disagree with me, using them more for risk management or taking profits. Like, hey, the indicator isn't agreeing with me anymore. Maybe it's time to start taking some profits or downsizing position or whatever, right? So it all depends. Like, indicators or not, that's where, again, where back testing comes into play. Using the replay feature on TradingView, super helpful, so that you can come up with your own strategies with your indicators, right? It doesn't really matter what the indicator is necessarily. You still want to come up with a trading strategy around it. You don't just want to kind of take any signal blindly on an indicator, right? I still like to use them as a second opinion more than anything. HBAR, I will take a look at soon. And Litecoin, I was also going to look at. One sec. Yeah, liquidity and structure are all that matters pretty much. The indicators I'm using, they are also in the description down below. There should be a 10% additional discount with the link down below, if that is something that interests you. Guys, yeah, the MDX Algo indicators, there is a handful of nice ones here. They all have their time and their place. There's only a handful that I specifically use. I don't like to get too many indicators on my screen because I'll just go blind to the price action. But beautiful indicators, basically the RSI, and these are the only ones that I've been using for the last 2.5 years. Yeah, like I said, if we hit 93, 133, then officially half of my short position on Bitcoin will be closed, and then we see what happens with the other half. But until then, I still have 80% running for now. XRP, almost forgot about this. Still got half running anyways. And again, as far as like sometimes when I hit my 0.5 target on a scalp, I'll update my stop loss. Sometimes I wait till the 214. It really depends how I'm feeling on the market. In this case, it wouldn't have mattered because we just went straight from target 1 to target 2. So I never did hit my stop. But yeah, the rest is at break even at this point. So nothing to worry about there. Cardano, I did want to take a look at. I wonder, it kind of looks like this might have had one. I don't know if it quite reached. No, never quite hit the 786 there. But same thing, would have had a nice short opportunity. Again, okay, this is like literally as micro analyzing as it gets. But again, we technically did have this little where we set a wick. We did slightly wick higher, lowest point between the two. Look where we ended up breaking support and flipping that into resistance, right? I know that a lot of people would argue with me and say, oh, that's not real chart structure, whatever. But it all depends on your back-tested strategy, right? But look how beautifully that flipped from support. Very, very briefly, that little order block there flipped into perfect resistance there. I'm not in a short based on this at all. It's just something that caught my eye right away when looking at this because I'm used to looking for that kind of structure. But that micro structure there, I mean, it is important. Whether or not you want to say that it's important, depending on what time frame you're looking at, obviously, like the 4 hour. Let's say I'm a swing trader instead of a scalper. I would very much so be looking at it the same. It's just it would take longer to play out is all. And that's the thing, guys. It's not all that hard. You know, I used to be more of a swing trader. Now I'm more of a scalper. I do a little bit of both. And I understand that not everybody is trading the 1 minute like me, right? I mean, obviously in these streams, I'm looking at the 1 minute, the 5 minute stuff like that more than anything. I totally understand not everybody, and honestly, most people should probably avoid those time frames. However, I treat structure the same. And whether it's the 1 minute, 5 minute, 4 hour weekly, I treat the structure the same. So if this was a 4 hour chart, I would have been looking at this order block as turning into resistance just like it did here. Not really a difference there. So again, guys, I understand that not everyone's into trading the shorter time frames, which is mostly what I'm looking at in my Telegram channel, but I also give my overall feel for the markets. I do look at the longer time frames as well. But just basically showing how I look at market structure, micro analyzing the structure, recognizing ranges, all that sort of thing, and including the videos that I actually break it down and go in a little more in depth with you there. So if that is something that interests you, do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code, follow the steps in the description down below. Hope to see you guys in there. Yeah, we've been crushing it in there lately. So yeah, now we're going to have to see what the trend ends up doing here. Hopefully, if it's an uptrend, hopefully the same thing happens on that end because the downside was absolutely beautiful. What else here? Yeah, you can see. So speaking of that trend master indicator, bringing it up on the 4 hour here, that was another reason why I believed that we had the lower high resistance there, which yes, obviously that was lower high resistance because of the basic structure, but also that we had the sell signal lining up with that. We have broke that level, but notice that it's printing this kind of this invalidation level here, kind of a stop loss. Now, this is one of those things I don't set my stop loss based on something like that. But I love to see, you know, same thing, just like with market structure, right? A swing fail of this level, just starting to see some sort of a rejection off the indicator would be just another sign of weakness, in my opinion. Again, the bulls have looked very strong today. I cannot argue that, you guys. This is the most, you guys know, those of you who have been with me on these streams for all of 2025, you know, this is probably the most bullish I've been, which isn't all that bullish, to be honest. It's cautiously bullish at this point, but this is the most credit I've been willing to give the bulls in quite some time, literally over 2 months. So even if we pull back here, let's say this short ends up running and we just continue nuking to the downside and we go all the way back to our lows around 80K, I'm not going to be as bearish as I was last time we were down here. So understand that a lot of people will get very bearish if we get back down to these levels. I will be significantly more bullish. I'd actually be more bullish than I am right now. Like I'm scared to FOMO into a long right now as we trade into resistance. But since we got the bullish confirmation here, I would love to look for some long setups down on the retest. I would love to see that. It's just that if I was looking at this chart right now, if I was pretending this was a 5-minute chart, my entry would not be longing into this breakout. It would be longing the retrace down here. It'll take a while to play out if we're going to get back down there because it is the 4-hour chart. But as far as the structure goes, that's my ideal entry. I want to see that pullback. Now, I'm not necessarily going to get it. And you guys know, as I was talking about earlier, I am totally okay getting into scalps and quickly updating my position and that sort of stuff. But I know that's not for everybody. But as far as an actual Stuber fib setup on the 4-hour chart, if I was looking for long right now, it would be around 81.9 down to about 80.2. So I will actually keep that there because I don't want to forget about that level if we start dropping. So hopefully that I'm actually going to delete this because that's no longer the lower high. So yeah, there's my updated 4-hour chart. So hopefully that all kind of makes sense so far. Yeah, Chaos gets it. That would definitely be a great long entry with size. And I think so too, right? Because we got the bullish confirmation. Just see a lot of people when they look at charts, they think, hey, resistance broke, we're bullish. Yeah, in this case, it would have played out. Playing the breakout would have worked out, but it's not always that case. You know, especially now, if you'd never caught it right at the beginning, I mean, it would be very dangerous to long into resistance right now. But yeah, just because a bullish signal has happened where we've broke some structure to the upside, doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to go all in on a long kind of a thing, right? That's where I really like looking for those Fibonacci pullbacks. To ladder into some sort of a position. But if we just keep trending to the upside, then I'll be looking for bullish Stubers on the upside, basically. Haven't quite hit that 93, 133 yet. So I still got 80% of that short in there. Would I throw that pullback away if we break the RSI? No, I would actually be willing to throw more money at it if we got the pullback with the break of the RSI. Again, not saying that we would have to get down there, but I would still be open to the idea, basically. Breaking the RSI doesn't, since it's on a weekly, I mean, man, the weekly chart is a very large, I mean, this is a very large move that happened on the weekly. Just because we break that RSI bullishly on the weekly, the shorter time frames could still very much so move to the downside temporarily. maybe we don't get that low, maybe something else to watch for. Let's just say, okay, you know what would be something to watch for if we're not going to get back down to that level? Let's just say the structure starts doing something like this. Like, let's say we go there, but we don't quite end up hitting the 786. But notice here, something like this. This is obviously very theoretical at this point. Just something to watch for from a structure perspective for an early reversal would be, for example, we trend back to the downside. We set a lower low, and we break that lower high again. In my opinion, that would be a great warning that, hey, we're not getting back down to this fib target, and maybe it's time to start looking for, then pulling a new one, for example, or zooming into lower time frames and trying to find one or whatever. But if we had that kind of structure where we broke a more immediate downtrend on the way down towards those pockets, I would consider that the trend may be breaking early. Okay, so let me just double check that it did take some profits there. And it did. So I have half my position still running with a break-even stop there. I would consider reshorting if that ends up getting stopped out. I'd want to see if we set any sort of structure near that fib pocket, because there would still be this bearish super fib at play from where we've topped out so far. So I'd still be interested in watching for resistance up at the top of the range again if we end up bouncing. Start looking for weakness somewhere around the 786. Definitely something worth considering, in my opinion. One minute ascending triangle, something like that. It's a little messy. I personally, when I trade chart patterns and trend lines, I like exact touch points. So the fact there was that little swing fail and stuff, it's just a little bit messy, but obviously that depends how your own back tested chart patterns have played out, right? Because some people like to use wicks, some people like to use candle bodies, some like the most touch points, like the best average. It all depends. That's where it goes back down to the execution of a trade setup, right? You might look at things different than I do. I guarantee if we had the exact same trend lines, fibs, indicators, absolutely everything the same, I promise you we would trade this market completely different. There's a very select few people in this chat right now that I would say would probably have very similar entries to me. But other than that, yeah, obviously it just depends what you see and how you react to those setups, right? So yeah, I can see that potential ascending triangle there if that's the one you're talking about. Little mini guy there. What I would love to see for my short would be either right now set another higher high and then break that higher low and start trending to the downside again, or even if we keep trending up and then end up breaking a higher low, something like that. Just theoretical, right? I don't know how that's going to happen. Just kind of getting ready for what the market structure is going to do. If we do lose another higher low on the trend, like I would not consider this a higher low right now because we have not confirmed it with a higher high yet. But if we end up losing a higher low on this trend, I would consider adding to my position and bumping up my stop loss a little bit. My stop loss on those 786 trades. I usually leave my stop loss a little beyond my 115 fibs, but understand the 786 is just the start of my resistance in this case, right? Like usually my average entry is not on the 786. It's usually between the 886 and the 1, sometimes even higher, depending when I notice the trade setup. Sometimes I'll take a swing fail setup instead. But yeah, the 786 is just kind of if it's pulled top to bottom, obviously then I'm looking for resistance. So I'm more so looking at starting a position at the 786 and laddering up towards my invalidation to pull my average entry up. Now I want to be clear about this. That does not mean doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on the position. It means I have a position size in mind, and I'm more so starting with like a quarter of a position, and then either another quarter and a half, or depending how I feel like splitting it up at the time, or if there's a swing fail involved or anything like that. But the 786 is basically the level that I'm willing to start a position. It's not so much where my average entry is. So understand that it's not like I would be losing on a short from here and getting stopped out up here. It's more so my short position would be more so from somewhere up here, and the loss would actually be, half the size kind of a thing. And then depending on risk tolerance, if you want to keep your entries at the beginning of it very small and then waiting for a swing fail, for example, to enter 3/4 of your position, let's say, that would help your average entry a lot and reduce your risk a little bit. So those are all techniques that you can use depending, but all depends on the person and how they want to trade, right? Shorting the yearly open, where? Oh, that's the wrong one. AI charting tools. Where is the... Why don't I see the yearly open? Oh, that might be an outdated version of the indicator or something. Let's is it the Algo Master? Does that have it? Yearly opens. Let's make it bright and pink. Sorry, I know there's going to be a lot of stuff on here right now that I don't want. Actually, that's interesting. So, guys, notice this, right? Is that so the Algo Master, another MDX tool that I like to use, it does have these auto Stuber fibs on it. So in the settings, auto fib levels, Stuber fibs. There's a couple different auto fibs there. I still think it's important to know how to pull them yourself, because sometimes the indicator will pull them slightly differently. It takes some different things into consideration. Sometimes it pulls them, or it's either late or it was already invalidated or stuff like that. So understand whatever's on the screen isn't necessarily correct. However, in a case like this, for example, this is a great second opinion for me to have, right? I can just flip on my Algo Master indicator and it literally pulled the exact same fib as me. So that's a great second opinion to have as well. It has the yearly open here, right around 93.5, 93,555, basically. Yeah, interesting that we got above that yearly open and we're back below it already. I'm personally not blind shorting that, just because I saw the comment about it. I watch the yearly, monthly, weekly, daily opens and stuff as a bit of confluence, but I've never blind short them myself. I like to look for those fib entries or the trend master entries, stuff like that. But yeah, definitely interesting that we do still have that resistance above us right now. Amazing news. Can't wait for all the ETFs that are incoming. Yeah, honestly, guys, I have a hard time getting bullish over ETF news, quite honestly. How many times now have we seen ETF news and then the price just goes down anyways? Um, yeah, it's good for the space overall, obviously. It's more adoption, it's bigger players getting in the space. Maybe I don't sound all that excited because, guys, as a trader, I love volatility. And you guys have to understand that the more these bigger players get involved, like we all celebrate these bigger players getting into crypto, you have to understand how much smaller all these bull markets are going to get. The bigger money involved, the more, the exponentially more money it takes to actually move the price and make an impact. So, and also, think about next cycle. Who's next? Every cycle, we need a big new wave of money coming into the space to even get similar price action to the previous cycle, because whether or not there is a set amount of Bitcoin, there is always more Bitcoin being mined. So there is more coming into circulation. It takes more money to push the price to the same price levels. So just in general, the more players in the space, the bigger players, it's just a sign that things are going to get a little more tame moving forwards. Yeah, it's good from a fundamental level, and yeah, it's good for the space that yes, it's not going to disappear anywhere. We're going to keep going to the upside slowly, but it's just too bad. I miss the good old volatility of just retail trading retail. It was a lot more erratic and exciting. Um, but yeah, guys, I think I may even end up doing a stream again later tonight. I was kind of thinking around the weekly close, weekly open. We'll see what I get busy with today. I've actually got to leave the house here within a few minutes, so I am going to take off here. But you guys, for those of you who have enjoyed the stream, first of all, if you could do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And guys, again, if you like looking at chart structure, you don't care so much about the fundamental side of things, you just want to keep a level head, read the charts for the structure that's there, kind of get my overall view of the markets, some of my trade setup ideas, some of my theories moving forward, all that sort of stuff. Do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code or click the link in the description down below and follow the steps. Again, we have some educational content in there as well. And on top of that, even a special promotion from our partners at BloFin for a nice cash back if you deposit in the next few days here. There's a few days left on that. But yeah, guys, I thank you all so much for being here with me. Truly appreciate having you guys here. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream. One more time, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.